Hi, my name is Lua. It's the end of summer, so that can only mean one thing. It's spooky season now. And today I want to show you 15 books of all kinds of spooky genres for your Halloween spooky read this year, because at least for me, I really like to pick a book or two, depending on how much time I have in the month of October, and really lean into the spooky horror thriller feeling. And maybe you like one of my suggestions. That's a very hard word. And if you are missing one of your top horror, spooky, thriller, whatever autumn books, please tell me in the comments. Actually, this is my fourth video of doing like spooky Halloween recommendations. So if you want to watch the first three, I'm gonna link them. They are in German, but you might recognize the books. First, we have a classic haunted house vibe. And the first book for this on my list is The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marsh. Dare Chase doesn't believe in ghosts, but as the host of Attachments, her brand new paranormal investigation podcast, she knows to keep her doubts to herself if she wants to win over listeners. Her first season's subject is the Errington Estate, a sprawling manor rumored to be haunted by the spirit of Athleen Bell, who drowned in its lake almost 30 years ago. Dare is more interested in investigating the suspicious circumstances of Athleen's death, which she thinks point to a decades-old murder, not something supernatural. But Errington is full of surprises. As Dare is drawn deeper into the mysteries of the estate, she'll have to rethink the boundaries of what is possible. Because if something is lurking in the lake, it might not be willing to let her go. I'm gonna say this about all of the books on this list, but I really liked reading The Girls Are Never Gone. I like the modern atmosphere with the podcast, and of course the main character is a skeptic. We all know how that goes for them. Then we have theme music by T. Mary Vandelli. For The Lucky Among Us, life is what you make of it. But for Dixie Wheeler, the theme music for her story was chosen by another long ago, on the day her father butchered her mother and brothers and then slashed a knife across his own throat. Only 1-year-old Dixie was spared, becoming infamously known as Baby Blue for the song left playing in the aftermath of the slaughter. 25 years later, Dixie is still desperate for a connection to the family she can't remember. So when her childhood home goes up for sale, she sets aside all reason and moves in. But as the ghosts of her family seemingly begin to take up residence in the house that was once theirs, Dixie starts to question her sanity and wonders if the evil force menacing her is that of her father or a demon of her own making. What I really liked about this book is that until kind of the end of it, you really don't know, is Dixie imagining all those things? Is it supernatural? Did something entirely possible happen? And I really like those kinds of books where you're left hanging until the end if it was just all in her head. Then we have Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson, which in its beginning is kind of similar to The Girls Are Never Gone, where the main protagonist goes to an old house to work there for the summer. The fire wasn't Marlo Wexler's fault. Dates should be hot, but not hot enough to warrant literal firefighters. Akila, the girl Marlo has been in love with for years, will never go out with her again. No one dates an accidental arsonist. With the house-setting career up in flames, it seems the universe owes Marlo a new summer job. And that's how she ends up at Morning House, a mansion built on an island in the 1920s and abandoned shortly thereafter. It's easy enough giving tours. Low risk of fire, high chance of getting bored talking about stained glass and nut cutlets and prohibition. Oh, and the death. Did anyone say anything about the death? Maybe this job isn't such a gift after all. Morning House has a horrific secret that's been buried for decades. And now the person who brought her here is missing. This was really interesting because Marlo is a very specific main character. She's very awkward, very unsure of herself, and it was kind of funny to read it that way. And last in this category we have Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, which is kind of similar to theme music, but there are only so many things you can do with the haunted house vibes, right? 25 years ago, Maggie Holt and her parents moved into a rambling Victorian estate called Bainbury Hall. They spent 3 weeks there before fleeing in the dead of night. An ordeal her father recounted in a spooky memoir that became a worldwide phenomenon. She may have been too young to really remember what happened, but Maggie doesn't believe a word of her father's book. Ghosts, after all, don't exist. But now Maggie is back at Bainbury Hall and is beginning to believe that there might have been some truth in the fiction, that either way someone, or something, doesn't want her here, and that she might be in danger all over again. What I really liked about this one again is also that it's kind of psycho terror a little bit, where you don't know if it's a ghost, if it's a person or something, or if it's something else entirely. For the next category, we have the summer camp Friday the 13th vibe, and I have two books. The first one is You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kellen Byron. It's a short read, so maybe perfect for the people who don't have that much time in October. Charity Curtis has the summer job of her dreams, playing the final girl at Camp Mirror Lake. Guests pay to be scared in this full-contact terror game, as Charity and her summer crew recreate scenes from a classic slasher film, The Curse of Camp Mirror Lake. The more realistic the fear, the better for business. But on the last weekend of the season, Charity's co-workers begin disappearing, and when one ends up dead, Charity's role as the final girl suddenly becomes all too real. I really like the setup that they are at a summer camp that's supposed to be scary. They are acting to scare people and then it turns real. I think this is really fun. The other book in this category is The Last Girl Standing by Jennifer Dugan. This is kind of interesting because I put it in the summer camp category, but basically the book starts after the bad things at the summer camp happen, so it's kind of the aftermath and the psychological influences. Sloane and Sherry and Sloane. They met only a few days before masked men with machetes attacked the summer camp where they worked, a massacre that left the rest of their fellow counselors dead. Now, months later, the two are inseparable, their traumatic experience bonding them in ways no one else can understand. But as new evidence comes to light and Sloane learns more about the motives behind the ritual killing that brought them together, she begins to suspect that her girlfriend may be more than just a survivor. She may actually have been part of it. As I said, I think it's a very interesting setup and it also kind of plays with your mind. Next category is kind of a classic. It's the small town with big secrets category, which I named. I don't know if it's really a trope. First one for this is Signed, Sealed, Dead by Cynthia Murphy. Moving can be murder. Dear Paige, welcome to your new home in Shore Haven. We've been waiting for some new blood. Speaking of blood, did you know the girl who lived in this house before you was murdered? She wasn't the only one, but dead girls have secrets, Paige. So do the people in this town. Who can you trust? It's down to you to expose them, otherwise history will repeat itself. So it's about a girl, Paige, who moves into this new town, or I think it's actually the town her dad lived in before when he was a child, and there's kind of a murder thing going on, and she gets these letters sent to her home, which are kind of, yeah, like the one I just read you on the back of the book. Then we have Let's Split Up, which kind of in itself is a classic, at least like the trope behind it. It's by Bill Wood. When hot it couple Brett and Shelley are brutally murdered in a manor on the edge of town, a group of friends investigates. A theory spreads around town as fast as the fire on the day of the killings. The old ghoul who haunts the house after his own murder has finally taken revenge. As Cam, Jonesy, Amber, and new girl Buffy search for clues, the rumor feels closer to the truth than they ever dared think possible. And as they enter the derelict building themselves, the idea of splitting up to find evidence will prove to be the best or worst decision of all. Basically, I could have also called this category the New Girl category, but I think there would be too much overlap to the other categories because New Girl is kind of like iconic for a horror book. And last for this we have In Nightfall by Susan Young. I really like the cover. It's kind of giving 90s horror slasher vibes. Theo and her brother Marco threw the biggest party of the year and got caught. Their punishment? Leave Arizona to spend the summer with their grandmother in the rainy beachside town of Nightfall, Oregon. Population 846 souls. The small town is cute when it's not raining, but the grandmother is superstitious and strangely antisocial. Upon their arrival, she lays out the one-house rule: always be home before dark. But Theo and Marco are determined to make the most of their summer, and on their first day they meet the enigmatic Minnow and her friends. Beautiful and charismatic, the girls have a magnetic pull that Theo and her brother can't resist. But Minnow and her friends are far from what they appear. And that one rule? Theo quickly realizes she should have listened to her grandmother, because after dark, something emerges in Nightfall, and it doesn't plan to let her leave. I again really liked it. It's kind of New Girl in Town, but only for the summer, so a little bit different. And I also really liked the reveal. The next category is for the murder podcast girlies. It's a little less haunted and a little more on the realistic side of life. First one is the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, which I really like because it's kind of a twist. It's about what happens when a person who went missing a long time ago suddenly returns, which I think is a really interesting setup. 18-year-old Belle has lived her whole life in the shadow of her mother's mysterious disappearance. 16 years ago, Rachel Price vanished and young Belle was the only witness, but she has no memory of it. Rachel's gone, long presumed dead, and Belle wishes everyone would just move on. But the case is dragged up from the past when the Price family agrees to a true crime documentary. Belle can't wait for filming to end, for life to go back to normal. And then the impossible happens. Rachel Price reappears, and life will never be normal again. Rachel has an unbelievable story about what happened to her. Unbelievable because Belle isn't sure it's real. If Rachel is lying, then where has she been all this time? And could she be dangerous? Or maybe I could interest you in 5 Survive, also by Holly Jackson, which has kind of an interesting setup. Red Kenny is on a road trip with 5 friends when their RV breaks down in the middle of nowhere. This is no accident. Someone is out there, and someone wants one of them dead. With 8 hours until dawn, the 6 friends must escape or work out which one of them is the target. Buried secrets will be forced to light, and not everyone will survive the night. A little accidental, or maybe not so accidental, rhyming in the end. Again, here the protagonist is very interesting because it's very different from like a typical protagonist in the way she thinks and she behaves, which made the book interesting to me. If you're looking for something a little bit of a longer read, I can suggest The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is actually a series. You can see the other books right there. It's 4 in total for the main story. I believe there's also some side stories that came out, but this is for the girlies who, or all the guys, I don't want to leave anyone out, that like Dr. House or Bones or like these people with those really impressive minds. 17-year-old Casey Hobbs is a natural at reading people. Piecing together the tiniest details, she can tell you who you are and what you want. But it's not a skill that she's ever taken seriously. That is until the FBI comes knocking. They've begun a classified program that uses exceptional teenagers to crack in famous cold cases. And they need Cassie. What Cassie doesn't realize is that there is more at risk than a few unsolved homicides, especially when she's sent to live with a group of teens whose gifts are as unusual as her own. Soon, it becomes clear that no one in the Naturals program is what they seem. And when a new killer strikes, danger looms close. Caught in a lethal game of cat and mouse with a killer, the Naturals are going to have to use all their gifts just to survive. Really, really good, really liked it, and yeah, it's maybe something for more than just spooky season, but for the rest of the year. Last, we have kind of the miscellaneous category. I called it the friend group trope, but that's kind of like a catch-all for the books I wanted to show you, but didn't really fit elsewhere. And first on that list is One Last Breath by Ginny Myers Sain. Mount Orange, Florida is famous for 2 things: freshwater springs and the murder of 2 teenagers 20 years ago. As the summer heat ignites, 18-year-old True finds the dead girls invading her every thought. And then a stranger, Rio, comes to town. Rio claims an otherworldly connection to the past, and there's an undeniable chemistry between True and Rio. As the girls join forces to investigate the cold case murders, they realize it could be their own blood that makes the springs run red. This is a bit of a toss-up because I didn't expect the supernatural connection. This is maybe a bit of a spoiler, but I thought it was just about the murders and solving the murders, but then it became kind of weird, so you have to like that if you want to read this book. Then we have The Blonde Dies First by Joelle Wellington, which also kind of is very tropey in its title itself. Devin is determined to give her twin sister Drew the best summer ever before she heads off to college, no matter the cost. So when a Ouija board is pulled out at an exclusive private party, the twins are game. After all, it's just a bit of harmless fun, right? Wrong. A demon has been released from the board and is hell-bent on hunting down Devin, Drew, and their friends. Now the group find themselves living out a slasher movie plot, and everyone knows the blonde dies first. This was very fun to read. I didn't really know what to think about the demon, but it's certainly a choice. And the last book on this list is actually the only book I haven't read yet. It's my pick for this spooky season, which I saved for that. The Threshers by Julie Soto. I already put a bookmark in here, but I actually didn't start it. I waited. I saved it for this occasion. Jodie never asked to be a Thresher, a member of the high school elite. But Jodie has been best friends with Zack Thresher her whole life, and that means she's branded a Thresher by the rest of the school. But being a Thresher isn't worth dying for. Except apparently it was to Emily Mills, sweet but intense Emily, whose fixation on Zack brought her close to the in crowd, but never close enough. And when a detective finds a copy of Emily's diary, there are whispers that she was thrashed, bullied to death by Zack and his gang. Surrounded by questions, the Threshers begin to turn on one another. But one thing is clear. Emily isn't done with them. Those were the 15 books I wanted to show you today. If you want to check out more suggestions, you can head over to the 3 spooky season videos I made before. They are in German, but they are worth it and you will recognize the books. They are mostly in English. And otherwise, I hope you liked the video. Maybe subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss any new videos. You can also go and follow me on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the description down below. And I hope I see you in the next video. Bye!